I never thought I'd be fighting off my own parents at my brother's birthday party, of all places, until they demanded my $450K condo and left me no choice but to defend myself. And then, to make things worse, my husband sold their house after 25 years. Talk about making family feuds a whole lot messier. Before we continue, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I honestly love reading each one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, enjoy the story. I'm Lily, the one who always kept my distance, the peacekeeper, the one who smiled through it all. It's funny really how life works. I'm 47, living in a quiet suburb with my husband Don, who's a great guy. Not perfect, but who is, right? We've been married for 22 years, no kids, by choice. We've always had enough. Enough to be comfortable, enough to stay out of drama, until now. I've got this little condo in the city, a nice place, but nothing fancy, nothing to write home about. It's worth around $450K, something I worked my butt off for. My parents? Well, they don't get that. They never did. They still think I should be helping them, paying them back for every penny they spent on me growing up, except they never asked for any. My parents have a way of acting like I owe them, even if they never directly say it. And don't even get me started on my brother Kevin. He's a smooth talker, the golden child, always getting the approval and attention. But I was the one they depended on, the one who never gave them any trouble. So the night of Kevin's birthday party rolls around. The whole family's there, and it's supposed to be a celebration, right? Wrong. It felt off from the start, my mom especially. She kept eyeing me, shooting me these looks that made me wonder what was coming. You know that feeling when something's just about to blow? That's what I had. And then it happened. Mom pulled me aside, voice low but sharp. Lily, you know your father and I aren't getting any younger. We could really use your condo, to help with some things. I laughed, thinking she was joking, but she wasn't. You want me to give you my condo? I asked, almost to myself. Her eyes hardened. We're not asking, Lily. It's not just a favor, it's what's right. Before I could even process her words, Kevin joined in, all smiles, like he was some kind of mediator. Come on, sis, it's a small thing. You've got the money, you don't even use it. That's when Don stepped in, appearing at the door, like he knew something was up. He caught the look on my face, the tension in my shoulders, and without missing a beat, he said, They're not getting the condo. It was like the air in the room thickened. My parents' faces turned red, but it wasn't just anger, it was disbelief. How dare you, Don? Dad's voice was a growl. After all we've done for you? And then it all erupted. Mom slapped me, hard, right across the face. Kevin stood there, dumbfounded, doing nothing. You'll regret this, she hissed through clenched teeth. You ungrateful little... That was the last straw. I grabbed her wrist, twisting it just enough to break her hold on me. I don't owe you anything, Mom, I snapped. And that's when Don, usually calm and collected, marched over and took control of the situation. I've had enough of this, he said, his voice dead serious. You've all crossed the line, and I'm done. After that night, everything felt fractured. We went back home in silence, the tension hanging like smoke between us. Don, usually the peacemaker, was angry. I knew him well enough to see it in his eyes. You're not going to let them do this, are you? He asked, staring at me from across the kitchen table. I don't know what to do anymore, Don, I replied, feeling the weight of it all. It's not just about the condo, it's about everything. The way they've always treated me, like I'm some kind of backup plan. Don exhaled, pacing in the kitchen. I get it, I do, but we're not just going to let them walk all over us. I had no idea how bad it would get. The next day, I got a call from Kevin, who was furious. You ruined everything, he spat. Mom and Dad are going crazy, and now they're saying you're trying to destroy the family. You need to fix this. I'm not fixing anything, Kevin, I said, my voice steady but firm. This isn't my problem. This is on them. Kevin's voice went cold. Then expect to be cut off. I hung up on him. I was done. But the real kicker? Don sold my parents' house without even telling them. After 25 years of living in that house, the one they'd always bragged about to anyone who'd listen, Don sold it behind their backs. When they found out, it was chaos. Mom called me screaming, "How could you let him do this? That house was everything to us." But it wasn't everything to me. It wasn't even close. It was just another symbol of how they thought they could control everything, including my life. That night, as I sat down with Don, I couldn't help but feel the weight of it all. "Did we go too far?" I asked, my voice quieter than usual. He took a deep breath and his eyes softened. "No, we didn't go far enough. They've been manipulating us for years, Lily. It was time to put a stop to it." But even though I understood what he was saying, the guilt crept in. My parents weren't just my parents anymore. They were strangers who were so caught up in what they thought they deserved, they forgot what it meant to love me. The dust hadn't even settled from the sale when Mom and Dad showed up at our house, uninvited. The look on their faces made me want to shut the door and pretend they weren't there. But they weren't going away. "Where's our money, Lily?" Dad demanded, his voice cold and calculating. "We've already lost the house, and now you're sitting on your little condo. It's time you made things right." I stepped back, holding my ground. "You want money? Earn it, like I did." Dawn came out of the kitchen, standing behind me. "We're not doing this, not anymore." Mom's eyes were wild with fury. "You've made your choice then, we're done." And with that, they turned and walked away, slamming the door behind them. I could barely breathe. I was watching the family I'd grown up with, the family I'd loved, fall apart in front of my eyes. Don stood next to me, a comforting presence. But even he couldn't shield me from the fallout. "You did the right thing, Lily. You did what you had to." I wanted to believe him, but I wasn't so sure anymore. The following week, I was walking into work when I got a text from Kevin. It was short and harsh. "You made a huge mistake. You'll regret this." My hands shook as I read it, but I didn't bother responding. The lines had been drawn. It was too late. At home, Don was the rock he always was. But I could see how he was struggling too. We didn't talk about it much, but the house had changed everything. The sale was the final nail in the coffin. Our lives, our decisions had been turned upside down, and now everything was changing. That evening, while we were sitting at dinner, my phone rang again. It was Mom. I didn't want to answer, but I knew I had to. "Lily," her voice was sharp, each word carefully measured like a blade. "I can't believe you've done this. After everything, you just turn your back on us?" "I haven't turned my back on anyone," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But you need to understand, I'm not your backup plan anymore. I'm not here to make up for the things you think I owe you." There was silence on the other end, and then she let out a frustrated laugh. "You've always been so difficult, Lily. You think you've got it all figured out, don't you?" "Maybe I do now," I said, cutting her off. "Maybe I finally figured out that it's okay to say no." And with that, I hung up. It was over. They were done with me, just like they said they would be. Days passed in a blur, but the tension didn't lift. The gossip had started to spread in the neighborhood, and people at work looked at me differently. I didn't care much about what they thought, but I couldn't help noticing the stares. At night, I'd lie in bed next to Don, and we'd talk about everything and nothing. He was quiet more often than not. I could tell he was processing, just like me. We were both trying to figure out what our next move was. Finally, one night, after weeks of silence, Don broke the quiet. "I don't want to see you hurt, Lily, but you did the right thing. You need to know that. You stood your ground." I turned to face him, taking his hand. I just don't know if I feel right anymore. Like, is this who I am now? Someone who stands up for herself and loses everything?" He squeezed my hand. "You didn't lose everything. You've got me." And that was true. For all the chaos around us, for all the pain and fallout from the family drama, I still had him. That was something I couldn't ignore. The next few weeks were a blur. My parents didn't speak to me. Kevin didn't even call. I felt completely cut off, isolated. The whole town knew what had happened, and I was the villain. At work, people whispered. At the grocery store, I could feel eyes on me, and all I wanted to do was disappear. But Don, he didn't let me. "This is our life now," he reminded me, "and we're not backing down." One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table, I finally let myself feel the weight of everything. The decisions, the fights, the hurt. I wasn't sure if I'd ever feel whole again. That's when Don came in with a surprise. "We're going to take a trip, just you and me, to somewhere quiet. It wasn't much, but in that moment, it was everything. He knew what I needed, even when I couldn't put it into words. He'd always known me better than I knew myself sometimes. I hadn't realized how much I needed a break. Away from the noise, away from everything. I agreed, and within a few days we packed up and took off to a small cabin in the mountains. The fresh air, the isolation, the stillness, it was exactly what I needed. On our second day there, we sat on the porch, the sun setting behind the trees. Dawn was flipping through a book, but I couldn't focus. All I could think about was how much everything had changed, how my life had been turned upside down, how I had lost a family I thought I'd always have. "You okay?" Dawn asked, putting down his book and looking at me. I nodded, but my voice caught when I tried to speak. "I don't know, Dawn. I feel like I'm losing everything." "You're not losing everything," he said softly. "You've still got me." I let out a shaky breath, feeling a weight lifting off my chest. He was right. It didn't matter what had happened with my parents, or even with Kevin. In the end, I still had Dawn, and he had me. Maybe that was all I really needed. We spent the next few days just enjoying each other's company. No drama, no fighting, just us. It was a small piece of peace in the middle of the chaos. I started to feel like myself again, like I could breathe without the constant pressure on my chest. But then something unexpected happened. On the fourth day of our trip, I got a message from Kevin. It was a short text, but it was enough to stop me in my tracks. "I messed up. We need to talk." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part of me wanted to pick up the phone and hear what he had to say. Dawn noticed my hesitation. "You don't have to do this now, Lily. Whatever he wants to say, you don't owe him anything." I took a deep breath, reading the message again. "I know, but I need to hear it. I need to know why he turned his back on me." Dawn nodded, and without another word, I called Kevin. His voice came through cold at first, but then softened when he heard my voice. "Lily, I'm sorry. I should have stood up for you. I should have been on your side." I didn't know what to say at first. The hurt, the betrayal, it all came flooding back. "Yeah, you should have, but you didn't. I was scared, okay? They're mom and dad. I didn't know what else to do." His voice cracked slightly. "But I see now that I let you down. I should have been there." I was quiet for a long time, just listening to him. I didn't know if I could forgive him. Part of me wanted to, but another part of me was still angry. So much had changed. So much had been broken. "I don't need you to fix it, Kevin," I said finally. "I don't need your apology. I just need you to know I'm done trying to fix everything for everyone else. I'm not that person anymore." He was silent for a moment, and when he spoke again, his voice was steady. "I get it, Lily. I really do. I don't want to lose you." "Then don't. Be honest. Be real." I paused. "But I'm not going back to the way things were." "I can accept that," he said, and for the first time in a long while, his voice sounded like he meant it. After the call, I sat down with Dawn and told him everything. He didn't say much, but I could tell he was relieved. It wasn't about fixing anything. It was just about finally hearing the truth. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was making progress. The pain wasn't gone, but it was starting to fade. I wasn't going to fix things with my parents or with Kevin. I was done with that chapter. And yet the call from Kevin made me realize something. Even though I was done with them, I still needed closure. I needed to stop holding on to the hope that things would be the way they were before. I had to let go. The trip with Dawn was just what I needed. I realized that while my family was falling apart, I had something better, someone who supported me no matter what. A few months later, I ran into Kevin at a coffee shop. The conversation was awkward at first, but we both knew things couldn't stay the way they were. "I messed up," Kevin admitted, looking genuinely sorry. "I should have stood up for you." I stared at him for a moment. "You could have, but you didn't." We both sat in silence for a long while before I spoke again. "I'm not going to ask for your forgiveness, Kevin. I don't need it." Kevin nodded, his face softening. "I understand. I don't expect you to forgive me. I was a coward. But I do want you to know I never wanted things to end up like this. I just didn't know how to handle everything." I gave him a small, tired smile. "I know, Kevin, I know." We talked for a little while longer, but it was clear that things were different. There was no going back to how things were before. We both knew that, but at least now we could acknowledge it. As for my parents, they never came around. They cut me off completely, just like they said they would. But I didn't mind anymore. I had Don, and that was all that mattered. It didn't matter that they couldn't understand why I made the choices I did. It didn't matter that they would never see things my way. I had learned to be strong, to stand up for myself, and to finally let go of the expectations they had put on me for so long. I didn't give them the condo, I didn't give in, and I didn't look back. This was my life, my choice, and for the first time in a long while, I felt free. I looked over at Don as we sat on the porch one evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon. You know, this might be the happiest I've been in years. He chuckled, taking my hand. I'm glad to hear that, Lily. You deserve it. I squeezed his hand tightly, the warmth of it grounding me. I never thought I'd say it, but I'm glad this whole mess happened. Don raised an eyebrow. Really? I nodded, a smile tugging at my lips. Yeah, because if it hadn't, I wouldn't have realized how much I needed to fight for myself. I wouldn't have known what I'm really capable of, and I wouldn't have gotten here, with you. He smiled back, and for a moment everything felt right. All the chaos, all the hurt, all the mess, it had led me to this moment. And even though it had been hard, even though it had broken me in some ways, it also made me stronger. I looked out at the sunset, feeling a peace I hadn't known in years. I'm done being the fixer, Don. I'm done trying to make everyone happy. I'm just going to live for me now. And that's all that matters, Don said softly. You've earned it. I nodded, leaning my head on his shoulder. Yeah, I think I have.